A devastating high-speed crash, 2 lives lost, and a shocking conviction. Netflix just reignited the debate around Mackenzie Shirilla Strongsville case, and what they reveal will make you question everything you thought you knew. Here's an outline of the case's most critical points, now brought back into sharp focus by the documentary. A summer night in July 2022, meant for easygoing camaraderie, instead dissolved into an unimaginable horror on the streets of Strongsville, Ohio. In the tranquil hours after midnight, a high-speed crash ripped through the stillness, shattering more than just metal and glass. It was an incident that would forever scar a community and leave an indelible mark on multiple families. The devastating impact, a chilling testament to the forces at play, left behind a scene of absolute wreckage. But the true tragedy lay not merely in the mangled vehicle, it was in the precious lives irrevocably lost. Passengers Dominick Schipper and Davion Flanagan, young men with futures stretching vibrantly before them, perished in that catastrophic collision. Their laughter, their dreams, their very presence, extinguished in an instant, leaving behind a void that no words could ever fill. What drove the car to such perilous speeds? And how did a seemingly ordinary evening spiral into such profound despair? For those left behind, the unbearable reality had just begun. The unbearable reality for the grieving families had just begun, but as investigators pieced together the fragments of that fateful night, a new, chilling chapter unfolded. The legal system, in its relentless pursuit of truth, brought forth a devastating indictment against Mackenzie Shirilla. The shock rippled through the community as the charges were laid bare, not just a tragic accident, but something far more sinister was being alleged. Multiple counts of murder, vehicular homicide, and felonious assault. How could a seemingly ordinary evening spiral into such grave accusations? The prosecution's theory painted a chilling picture, suggesting the horrifying plunge wasn't a mistake, but a deliberate act. They posited an intentional crash, a calculated maneuver that turned a vehicle into a deadly weapon. Could the high speeds have been a desperate cry, or something far colder? What unspeakable motive could drive such an action, transforming a young life into an alleged perpetrator of such profound loss? The courtroom prepared for a battle not just over evidence, but over the very intent of a heart, forcing everyone to confront the darkest possibilities of human nature and the unsettling question: what truly happened in those final, terrifying moments? The courtroom hushed as the prosecution unveiled its devastating theory, shattering any notion of a mere accident. This wasn't a tragic error, they asserted, it was an act of unfathomable intent. At the heart of their case lay the chilling accusation: Mackenzie Shirilla, battling a tumultuous, toxic relationship, had intentionally transformed her car into a weapon, deliberately steering it off the road to end not only her own life but the lives of her 2 innocent passengers. Could a young woman, in a moment of ultimate despair, be driven to such extreme, calculated destruction? The prosecution argued that her troubled emotional landscape, reportedly spiraling from that volatile relationship, became the crucible for a murder-suicide plot. They sought to unravel the very intent of her heart, painting a picture of a mind allegedly clouded by despondency, culminating in those final, terrifying moments. But how could one possibly prove such a monstrous premeditation? What twisted logic, what subtle clues, could reveal the depths of such a dark decision, challenging everyone to confront the unsettling question: what truly happened inside Mackenzie Shirilla's mind as she allegedly made that fatal choice? The question of what truly happened inside Mackenzie Shirilla's mind loomed large, a chilling void the prosecution sought to fill with stark, undeniable evidence. Central to their case was the haunting dashcam footage, a silent observer capturing the final, horrific moments. It wasn't just a record of a crash, it was presented as a deliberate sequence of events: the clear, sustained push on the accelerator, the precise, intentional turn of the steering wheel directly into the concrete wall. How could such clarity of action be interpreted as anything but a choice? But the story didn't begin and end with that grainy video. Witnesses painted a disturbing picture of Shirilla's demeanor in the hours leading up to the tragedy, a behavior allegedly laced with an unsettling detachment, raising questions about her state of mind long before she ever got behind the wheel. And then came the aftermath, the stark contrast between the horrific scene and Shirilla's reported composure, an apparent lack of immediate remorse that baffled investigators and the public alike. What psychological landscape could explain such a chilling disconnect? These pieces, meticulously laid out, dared the jury to connect the dots, suggesting a premeditation so dark, it still compels us to ask, what sequence of thoughts truly led to that fateful decision? The air in the courtroom, thick with anticipation, finally broke under the weight of Judge Romeo's decisive pronouncement. After weeks of raw testimony and the meticulous unveiling of every damning piece of evidence, the verdict crashed down, guilty on all charges. Shirilla's defense, clinging to explanations that sought to humanize the unthinkable, was systematically rejected, leaving no ambiguity. The judge's words underscored what many had already grappled with, the chilling reality of a premeditation so dark, a deliberate act that defied easy comprehension. Then came the sentence, life imprisonment, with the possibility of parole after 15 long, solitary years. What does a future dimmed by such a judgment truly entail for the convicted, and for the collective memory of the community she shattered? For a moment, the legal machinery delivered its ultimate answer to the fateful decision. Yet, as the gavel fell, one couldn't help but wonder if even this profound sentence fully unraveled the twisted, psychological landscape that allowed such a horrifying disconnect to manifest. The question persists, can justice ever fully extinguish the haunting why? The Netflix documentary, A Digital Spectre from the Past, didn't just revisit the facts, it ignited a firestorm, dragging the Strongsville crash back into the harsh glare of public scrutiny. Overnight, the internet pulsed with outrage, a cacophony of voices dissecting every frame, every testimony. But beyond the visceral public reaction, a deeper, more unsettling debate has taken root. Legal scholars and armchair detectives alike wrestle with the profound complexity of proving intent in a vehicular homicide case. How do you truly penetrate the veil of another's mind? Can a jury ever fully grasp the unseen motivations, the psychological landscape, that allowed such a horrifying disconnect to manifest into that fateful decision? The renewed spotlight forces us to confront the frustrating chasm between intuition and evidence. While the public clamors for an unequivocal why, the legal system grapples with the intricate, often elusive, burden of demonstrating purpose behind a devastating act. Does the surge of renewed interest, this fresh wave of analysis, bring us any closer to extinguishing that haunting question, or merely amplify its echo? The answer, it seems, remains as murky as the circumstances of that fateful night. Netflix has a way of turning whispers into roars, and its latest documentary on the Mackenzie Shirilla case is no exception. Suddenly, a tragedy once confined to courtrooms and local headlines has been flung onto the global stage, prompting an unprecedented wave of fresh scrutiny. Viewers, armed with a pause button and the collective consciousness of online forums, are meticulously re-examining every frame of footage, every expert testimony, every snippet of a witness account. The documentary doesn't just retell, it recontextualizes. New questions are emerging, not just from armchair detectives, but from seasoned legal minds and the public alike. Was the full weight of the evidence truly understood at trial, or is the documentary highlighting subtle nuances previously overlooked? The concept of intent, always the most elusive and devastating burden to demonstrate, is once again under the microscope. Could different interpretations of the facts lead to a different understanding of what transpired that fateful night? And ultimately, the most haunting question persists, was justice truly served, or merely rendered within the confines of available information? This renewed spotlight doesn't promise easy answers, instead, it amplifies the echoes of that dark night, daring us to look closer, to question everything, and to wonder if the truth is finally beginning to surface, or if the murkiness only deepens.